Hey, Ivy, what's going on? It's Jane and Phil, and we got a book for you. And we are down at the beach, so we picked a book because you wanted him. You wanted the big old Walter to come back. Walter the farting dog. Well, he is back, and he is back in Walter the farting dog, banned from the beach. And banned means he's not allowed on the beach. I wonder why. Could be one of those. I don't know. Well, here we go. Dear Ivy, just like Walter, you are the greatest treasure of all. We love you, Aunt Jane and Uncle Phil. June 2017. And you are a treasure, just like Walter's a treasure, except you don't smell that bad. I hope. Maybe in the bathtub, but we'll see. Are you ready for Walter the farting dog? Banned from the beach. Here we go. Can you see that, Miss Jane? Mr. and Mrs. Crab were having a ton of fun. There was sand and sea and sunshine every day. There was swimming and snorkeling and parasailing and lots of staff to boss around. You there! Called Mrs. Crab to the pool attendant. Get that leaf out of the water! And bring us some fresh towels, said Mr. Crab. Make it snappy. If only that dog weren't ruining my view, said Mrs. Crab. She doesn't sound very nice to me, and he doesn't sound very nice either. The dog was Walter, digging happily in the sand. You never know where an old bone might be hiding. He detected something under the sand and dug more frantically. Treasure! A bone! And it's a big one! He strained to tug it out and let out an enormous fart. The umbrella that was shading Mr. and Mrs. Crab was blown into the sea. They watched aghast as it was carried away by the undertow. At that moment, Father and Mother arrived with Betty and Billy. Mr. Crab stomped over to Father. Is that your dog? Yes, admitted Father. That's our Walter. He shouldn't be allowed on the beach, shouted Mr. Crab. He blew away our umbrella. It couldn't have been Walter. It was probably the sea breeze. The sea breeze doesn't smell like that, said The sea breeze doesn't smell like that, said Mrs. Crab. I gotta get my people right. That evening, Mother said, wouldn't it be wonderful if we had our own little vacation home right on the beach? We can't afford it, said Father, who just bought himself a new set of golf clubs. Walter eats us out of house and home. Walter farted guiltily. There was a knock on the door. It was the manager of the resort. We've been getting complaints about that dog of yours. We can't allow him on the beach. I didn't see any rule against dogs in your brochure, said Father. It's a new rule, and it starts today. The manager stomped off. Sorry, Walter, said Father. You're banned from the beach. Walter farted sadly. Never mind, Walter, said Billy. Let's go for a walk in the village. Just stay away from the beach, warned Mother. In the quaint little village, lights twinkled in the trees. Everyone was enjoying the gentle breeze and the sweet smells of the tropical night. Walter was enjoying himself too. Travel broadens a dog's mind, he thought, farting philosophically. The Crabs were sitting nearby at a sidewalk cafe complaining about their key lime pie. Mrs. Crab counted the problems on her fingers. It's not big enough. It's not green enough. It's not sweet enough. Or maybe it's too sweet, said Mr. Crab, smacking his lips. A pelican flapped its wings at Walter, and Walter farted in alarm. The power of Walter's fart blew the meringue off Mr. Crab's pie. It landed in his face and made an awful mess. The crabs glared at Walter. "That dog is ruining our vacation!" "Go, Walter, go. These people are curmudgeons." That's a good word. We live with a curmudgeon right up the road. Next morning, Father got a phone call from the chief of police. "I've had a serious complaint about your dog," said the chief. "I'm afraid we can't allow him on our streets." Father hung up. "Sorry, Walter, you're banned from the village." "But where can Walter go now?" asked Billy. "He's grounded," said Father. "He stays inside." "That's not a very nice vacation for Walter," said Betty. Walter farted. "Need I say more?" asked Father. When everyone went out to have fun, Walter stayed inside with his nose pressed against the window. Poor little doggy. Poor Walter with his blue eyes. He's got eyes like you, Ivy. "Well," thought Walter, "I'll just have to make the best of it." He sniffed around for something to eat and found a sack of strange-looking tropical fruit. The label said, "Cook thoroughly. Do not eat raw." Since Walter couldn't read, he ate it anyway. Then he went to snooze in the sunshine pouring through the window. Billy and Betty were building a sandcastle on the beach. "Look," said Betty, pointing to the sea. "How did that island get there? It wasn't there before." "It must have been there, but it must have been underwater," said Billy. "Now that the tide is out, we can get out there. Let's go." They waded out through the shallow water to explore the mysterious island. Walter was probably farting at home. If you're good at something, keep doing it. "This is the sort of place where you find buried treasure," said Billy, beginning to dig. Suddenly something shiny glittered in the sunlight. "I knew it!" yelled Billy, holding up a nickel. "We're rich!" yelled Betty. Mr. Crab sat up under his new beach umbrella. "Those nasty children seem to have found something." The crabs waded out to the little island. "Let me help you," said Mr. Crab, pushing Billy aside. Mr. Crab found a rusty old key and waved it triumphantly. "I have a feeling that this will unlock something very important," he said. Sure enough, 10 minutes later, he dug up a door, and the key fit perfectly. "Maybe we'll find a whole vacation house," said Betty. Though they dug for hours, they didn't find anything else, and they didn't notice that their island was shrinking. The tide was rising fast, and the waves began to lap at their feet. Betty looked up and gasped. How did the beach get so far away? "It's the tide," cried Billy. "We're marooned." "Out of my way!" shouted Mr. Crab, and leaped into the water. Mrs. Crab dove in after him, followed by Betty and Billy. They swam as hard as they could, but the undertow was too strong. The current swirled them around and dumped them back on their shrinking little island. "Our only hope is to build a raft," said Mr. Crab. Walter's back. Walter woke up from his nap with a bad feeling. Betty and Billy must be in trouble. Walter's stomach was rumbling like a volcano. from the tropical fruit that should have been thoroughly cooked, but he ignored it and raced to the screen door. Locked. He stepped back and charged, bursting through the screen door and leaving a Walter-shaped hole in the door. Looks just like him, minus the part. Walter ran to the beach and saw 4 figures in the distance with the water rising around them. Mr. and Mrs. Crab were launching their raft. Billy was trying to help Betty. All Walter could see of Betty was her little head above the surface and her arms waving frantically. Walter plunged into the surf, shooting pains, twisting him around, and flung him back onto the beach. Was it a cramp from swimming too soon after eating? No, it was the tropical fruit that should have been thoroughly cooked. "Walter, save us!" cried Billy. This is impressive. Think about Moses. Walter struggled to rise, but the gases produced by the tropical fruit that should have been thoroughly cooked chose this moment to erupt with terrible force. The tropical fruit fart produced a boom that was heard along the coast for miles. Coconuts flew off trees, and the crabs, clutching their new umbrella, were blown all the way to the Sandwich Islands. The waves parted around the little island where Betty and Billy were stranded. Layer upon layer of sand and shells were pushed aside, leaving a pathway across the ocean floor. My goodness, look at that. Who's going for a ride? I knew there was another page. Betty and Billy ran toward shore. Halfway there, Billy tripped on something jutting out of the ocean floor. Walter raced out to help him. "It's a treasure chest!" cried Billy. "Bones!" thought Walter, and grabbed the handle in his teeth. He dragged the chest to the beach. Betty and Billy pried it open. Walter was disappointed to see that it only contained jewels and gold. No bones for the fart man or the fart dog. With the money from the treasure, Mother and Father bought the vacation home of their dreams. There was sunshine every day. There was golf and snorkeling and parasailing on the gentle sea breezes. Experts say it was the most important treasure uncovered in a century. But Betty and Billy disagreed. "Walter," they said, "you're the greatest treasure of all." Walter always saves the day. And I believe our book has come to an end. Ivy, we love you. Have a great time. See you